Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Immigrant Real Estate Podcast with myself, Dr. Cristina Corban, and I have my...
Kenny Wright. You got the right one, baby.
Yes. So good to have you here. We were just chatting about short-term renting, and maybe you think, what does that have to do with immigrant real estate? And if you're here with a job in United States on a work visa and whatever, and your company has to move you, what do you do with the place you rented? What if you could turn it into a short rental deal where you make some money? So Kenny here knows a lot about this. He was just telling me how he has this new listing on AirBNB. So tell me more about this, Kenny.
Well, great, and hey, welcome and to your listeners. And Christina, it's really been nice getting to know you and sharing things that we've been talking lately. So I'm excited to have that relationship starting. But the thing for us is we were doing, like anyone, finding our way in the real estate business, and between arbitrage and learning lease options and doing these different things, I wasn't necessarily wanting to be a landlord per se, but I do have a niche in the fact that I do like to do owner financing. So that's something that interests me, and lease options interest me a lot. And not to sidetrack from what we're doing, but I do everything, because, but these are the things that I'm really niche at. And then now I'm teaching some selling because of my background with running dealerships, the highline sales and things like that. So taught sales teams and led people to big records many times, but I kind of needed out of the corporate world, and I needed for health reasons, and I needed the car business is good. It's been good to me, my family. I raised my family, got my daughter through law school, and my son's joining the Army soon and got a really, really good job that they've recruited him for. We're very excited about that. And and all our veterans out there and people that do things to protect us, first responders. So we're grateful for everyone. But so he leaves actually this coming weekend. So it's raised my family. However, it's a business that'll suck the life out of you too. You pay, I traded time for dollars. And you may have listeners out here that they love their job, they're good at their job, but they know deep down they would love some other disposable income. You brought up a situation where, what if they needed to be somewhere, but then they need to be transferred somewhere else, and they have this property. So let's say they're not struggling to get a property, they have a property. Now,
they either have a property or they're looking, let's say they just come in here with a great job and they love corporate
right.
job that they have for now. And
exactly.
And what I know, for instance, with the short-term rental is like most HOA homeowner association are like kind of against that. So even before they rent something, they would have to have a plan on, hey, if I get moved, maybe the company could pay for terminating that lease, but what if I can actually make some income?
Exactly. So you brought up something about HOA. Now that's the Gestapo that we can't control. And usually it's some little Barney Fife that's on the board in the area, and they want to, citizens arrest. And so, but there are some that are going to be, they've passed laws in their little group. And then what they've done is to avoid those, because people were not good hosts. And my wife and I, we wanted to be good experience providers, not only to our guests, but we think about our neighbors.
Yes.
And I'll tell you a little story how the first one started and how we turned it around. And they're fans of ours now, but it didn't start that way. They were like, oh man, what are these people bringing in here? We're good friends with the neighbors now. And this all was birthed by January 10th was when our first one launched in 2019. Okay. And now we are cash flowing roughly it fluctuates. I mean, we've been putting the money back into building the units, but it's roughly going to be ahead of schedule and safely between 4,000 and 6,000 a month.
That's so sweet. How many units do you have so far?
4.
4. Great. How long does
The
it
fourth
take
one, the
per
fourth
day
one just
to
took pictures this week and just launched today. I did it early this morning because I had a lot of errands to run with my son. And I was just telling you, I don't know if you recorded that part. I've got all these bookings here that I'm answering, and we have now booked our 6th one, and I've got 2 people to talk to. And this thing just went live, but our other stuff has been booked up. So we provide a good experience. The thing I was excited about is one of them is a repeat little client that left us a great review in one of our locations. And she wanted to come back with her boyfriend for his birthday in a couple weeks. And she said, I saw you were booked up and I was so sad. And then I saw last night, nothing. Well, that went live today. So she was our first person to book.
That's so
And
sweet.
for being a repeat person, I threw her like a 20% coupon because I know I'm going to get a great review out of her because she was really, really kind and left our place really clean. So I threw that out there more or less to buy the review. But she is now going and telling a friend and everything. So my phone's blowing up. That's 1 unit.
Yeah.
We're probably going to be somewhere around, I want to say 7,500 a month cash flow with these few. We'd like to get to 5 or 6. And then we wanted this business. I don't own these units. We'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted these units to then, because each one's just, all I did was put in the first money. And I haven't taken the money out yet, but we rolled it into the next one and the next one. So what I wanted to do was have the units eventually take over a property, whether I take it over from a distressed seller, lease option situation. That way I test market it. If it doesn't work for me, then I'll go put a buyer in it. And I'm not trying to jump ahead of some of your listeners if they don't understand what lease options are. I'll be glad to explain that. But let's say I took over a property that way. I've got control of it. That's the whole point. I've got control of the property. I've made the seller happy. They're protected. But I, in turn, now become, instead of paying myself a buy fee to put that together, I, in turn, become the tenant. The seller doesn't care. They just know their mortgage is taken care of and everything's fine. They're getting what they want. And at the end of the day, if it takes off, then I'll move it over and loop it around and do a mortgage. You mentioned something, the first one, the lady or man that gets transferred, and they're not sure what to do with their property. Here's a rule of thumb. If you have a good walking area around that you can go to neat things, not every property is a good short-term rental. So, I mean, you have to be, and I'm not talking about a beach house. None of mine are in anywhere like that. You just have to look at the safety and security. The thing is, would you want to go stay there? And if it's a nice place that you would want to go stay there, if there's music nearby, but not disturbing, if there's nice coffee shops, things like that, it's a short Uber ride, or that you can pretty much get to a medical center. And this is where I want to get to the big thing. You have to determine, who are you wanting to serve? Are you wanting to serve a family-oriented deal that's going to be bringing in kids? Well, then you've got to have a bigger place.
Well, this is kind of what you are considering when you do this business. But somehow, what I'm kind of trying to get here is like, what if I'm looking to rent a property or eventually rent to own if possible, and then I get moved and I would like to turn that into a short-term rental, even though I'm away. Can I do that?
You can. I spend about, with the exception of setting it up. Now, there's a lot goes into setting it up, but I've got it down now. The first one took us 3 weeks because we were on a learning curve, and I'm real particular about getting processes down. We are now down to about 3 to 4 days. Now, there's some prep work that goes on in the middle of the night. I can order at night and think. I get everything brought to my location. I teach all this, so but I'm going to talk fast because we're time limited. You get everything brought to not that location, your actual domicile where you live. And then you take everything together with your contractors, whatever it is you're going to do. Now, 2 of my places actually needed rehab. So I had to synchronize all those things.
Well, that wouldn't be the case here. I mean, these people would just come into a place that's basically ready to rent and whatever. The thing is, what do they need to look for when looking to rent and eventually maybe to short term if they have to move. That's one thing. And another thing is, how long does it take you to take care of this short-term rental per day when they have a job? You know, they don't have the time to.
Right. Well, if they lived away, they wouldn't even be there. So you need to have someone that's typically a good cleaning crew, where you're working with them with this wonderful instrument right here, and you're communicating with them, and whether you FaceTime or whatever, so you can have a visual conversation like we're doing until you get that rapport going, and then you can just text each other. If they're really good, now you may have to go through a couple of people, but you want to be there and get it off the ground, because it's all about the experience. But if you were to, let's say your guest had a place and they needed to move, job, whatever, but they're not wanting to,
and it's
but rather than sell it,
furniture.
if they could leave, you wouldn't want to leave their furniture because it's personal. So you go in and pick up things from, different venues. There's all different kind of places to get some nice, good things. And when you start looking at it and you get whether it's an estate sale or whether it's online or whatever, there's all ways to pick up things and you go, oh, you know what, I can make that work. I saw 2 things that 3 people were like throwing away. It was nothing to them, but it was really, really nice. One of them actually it's like a 2 heart-shaped tiered deal, and we actually set the modem on it. So one of our properties is actually a duplex. And so we only needed one Wi-Fi because it's a small unit for both of them. Yeah. So it covers everything. Another thing I teach people is I show them that, you know what, you don't have to provide all the TV, you just provide, I subscribe to YouTube. Well, with YouTube, you can actually hook up 6 different units. So we actually use it at home. And then I've got it spread out in the units. So when we go to our next one, I'll have to get a bigger package with them. Yeah. That's $45 a month, but it's spread out over all those units. So my cost factor, when I do my cost factor, I take in my rent, my insurance and everything. I take in everything. And then I also factor in, this is kind of getting back to car business, you always leave in a little money in there that you go, well, I have to make this much on a car before I even call it profit. So we factor in a little pack that we don't even consider ourselves making money until the unit's made over $10,000 for the year. Yeah. So these units are not even but a few months old, and they're already tracking profitability. So we're probably gonna, and when I was trying to get off the ground, we probably will need to raise the rates a little bit, but there's something about repetition and keeping it speed. The reason I go with smaller ones is because.
How small? What does that mean, small ones?
Well, typically, right now we're focused on things that are like 1 bedroom, 1 bath, little efficiency type things. But then I always put a king size bed. When they go, I've had people that were in the transition of moving houses and rented it for 10 days. And one lady says, oh my God, this bed is amazing. We're about to move to a new house. Where did you get it? I sent her the link where I got the bed, and she just loved it, and they bought it for their new house. And
you should send me that link, so I put it for our listeners here.
So it's all about comfort, and there's some things to cut expenses on, some things not. I get incredibly super soft sheets, and we use a wash and fold laundry service. So when the cleaning service does it, what?
Where do you get those from?
It's a little company that you've never heard of.
Okay.
Amazon.
Oh, sure. Well, see, these are so the let's say someone comes.
I have 3 friends in this business: Wayfair, Amazon, and Costco.
Okay, great. See, yeah, all the listeners that come to this country, they don't come usually with many sheets or mattress or anything. They need to get it from somewhere, and you have tips on how to furnish efficiently, right?
Yeah, it is all about just spending some time. And again, I will tell any of your listeners that I always offer like a 10 to 15 minute free consultation if anybody reaches out to me now, because I'm not a guru. I am more of what you call a duru. I'm actually doing this. So I don't have time to go, I can meet 15 people this week. I can usually talk to about 2 people in a week. If I want to give you that, I donate that time to you. And then if it looks like we're a good match and you might want to find out more information, and we can talk about that. But otherwise, I might be able to just answer your question or point you in the right direction in 10, 15 minutes, and it was nice to meet you, and you move on your way. And that's cool. I gave that back to your listeners. They just need to tell me how much they love you and Christina, and then and then if they love you, then that's good enough for me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for.
But I don't have like if 15 people called me, I'd probably be 5 weeks before I could talk to all of them. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not that guy. I'm actually doing it. Now, this part of my life doesn't take, I've got it down processed so much, it doesn't take everything from me. It takes me about 90 minutes a day just to look at everything. Okay. I have all my security stuff here. I've got cameras for all my properties. What do you mean
your security stuff there?
Here's the cameras of the properties and stuff. I can switch to all my properties. I have a noise decibel monitor, and I put all this in my rules. And if I was working with somebody directly and they were, subscribing to me, then I would teach them point blank how to do this, tip to tail. But how you want to do your listing, that's very important. How you do this, I'm proven over and over. I get fast responses. But and you know what? Quality guests too. I'm on different chats and I listen to people and they go, man, I had this and this horrible thing, and they're surprised that somebody was smoking this and this, and I'm going, I'm just blessed. I mean, we don't have any of that. I'm not saying we're immune to it, but I mean, we're really blessed because we attract good quality people that want a nice, safe environment. They want something, they want to walk in and be wowed. People deserve to be wowed. They work hard for their money. If you provide that experience, you're going to get that back. And I'm not excessively expensive. I think if anything, we probably need to raise our rates right now, and yet we're making money. So I wanted to tie this into it's my fault I'm getting away from your first comment, but let's say you wanted to rent a house. Like, what's an average rent for a decent little house in your area? $2,000 a month?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you wanted to, your listener, wherever they're at, hypothetically, was transferring, and they go, well, if I keep the house, I could rent it for $2,000 a month and float here's what you do as rule of thumb as a short-term rental. You can be, and I'm proving it, you can be about 60 to 65% occupied for the month. That's not 100% occupied. Mm-hmm. About 65% occupied for the month, and you can double your rent.
Really? That's
mm-hmm. Now, you didn't get to rent them an empty shell. I mean, I've got good community coffee. Some people buy the Keurigs and all that. I don't do that. I buy a little small deal. We've got nice designs. I provide tea. People like teapots. I mean, there's little things. There's a lot of accessories you put in there. But here's what I found. There's certain things. My wife and I laugh. We went out of our way, like little ice cream scoops, things like that. It's very seldom that anybody touches anything in the kitchen. It's like maybe 3 to 4 dishes we're washing when we come through or when the cleaning crew comes through, because we do a quick inventory assessment. I take like the pantry and I put a key lock in there. They don't need the kitchen pantry like you and I do because you're not living there. But they've got all the other pantry stuff, so that if they needed room, there's accessories and things for them to use. So we turn that into our linen and storage closet. So everything's in there fresh. I've got extra batteries, light bulbs. I've got soaps. I've got everything that they need. And then their job is to let me know, hey, Mr. Kenny, we're low on this and this and this. And we can run over there and redo it while it's empty. But we're not running around chasing, oh, I've got 4 guests coming in and we're spending the whole day doing that. It's all about setting it up. Like, you've got to buy extra linens and be prepared. Yeah. Because I promise you, one day, you're going to get something soiled. You're going to get something's going to happen. And it's like, oh, wow, I only had the extra one. So by having everything on site, ready to go, but yet you don't want to have it where they can get into it because things happen, they'll walk off with your stuff. Or they just use it. So that's key locked that only you and the cleaner can get to. I also have, I don't have to worry about keys. Nobody loses keys because they've got a code. They get a code. The places, I've got a welcome email that I send out that I can share with everyone. These are what I do with people I'm working with, helping them. And it tells them exactly. So some people have a rule that I don't send it out till an hour before they're supposed to check in. I don't do that. I send it out that day, but I let them know the place is armed, and your code does not work until 4 o'clock, and that's your check-in time. And then you have to be out at 11. For instance, okay, if you have it posted that if they're not out at 11, after 15 minutes, they start getting charged per minute.
I see.
Mhm.
Well, let's, I mean, in a way, I would really like to see if you can tell us more about furnishing and about how to find and what to look for when you start renting it. So for now, let's say we're not necessarily talking to people who are doing this, and I love how you provide excellent service and everything like this. And if someone chooses to turn their house and their place into a short-term rental,
Right.
please do contact Kenny.
Let's say they were, let's say their house is located toward a good medical facility. And maybe there's people constantly coming in there to care for a loved one. So they need something more than a house and a little place to convalesce. And other family may come in. Let's say there's, like in Houston, we're like a medical mecca. So there's a whole medical center that, you know, if you're catering to those people, you want to be able to provide. That's a great way to do a rental. Let's say it's more business oriented. You've got executives coming in and out all the time because there's things going on. It could be that there's just wonderful events going on in your community, and they're coming in for a concert and they're going out or doing this. You have to determine where your place is. What is the most frequent thing a guest would want? Why would they want to be in your area if you already own the house? So if you already own the house, you're trying to solve that problem. Like, is this a good fit? If you're trying to find a place that's a good fit, then that widens you up where you can look around, and you have to determine who are you going to serve.
So you come in and you don't exactly know you don't know anything about the area, but eventually you may think, well, I might move and I might need to rent this out. So what am I looking for when I just come in and I don't know much about the area? I know there's a huge company here hiring people, many people, but that's about what I know about it.
Okay.
Thing is, I might stay here 6 months, but I might stay here a year and a half. What am I doing when I leave this area? And
or, you know, another point is
AirBNB, the place could be an idea. So this is so then who am I talking to? How am I going to find an owner that agrees to rent to me and later on maybe rent a room in my house or rent the whole place and I'm moving out? Or how could I go around doing that?
Okay, like I'm doing, because I don't own these properties yet.
Yes.
Okay. And I know for a fact, one, I'm not going to. The man's already told me, look, you've got 7 years and we're selling our place, and then we're going to build our dream house here when the kids are gone, but we don't want to take my son. So he already told me that going into it. So I've got roughly 72 months I get to cash in on. After that, but it's just a cash flow. I can take all my furnishings and furniture, they're mine, you know?
Yeah.
So, providing they're still in good shape and everything, but, you know, I mean, you know, but if not, it's a cost of doing business and you move on. One thing you want to consider is you can generally look at safely, the outside cost you would spend setting up one is $25 a square foot. I have done it for the maximum amount. I did $16 a square foot, and now I've done the last ones around $8 to $9 a square foot. Not because I did chinchy, I just set myself a high bar, and including rehabs and everything. So some of these were rehabs and some of these were apartments. Well, they didn't need anything. You just go in there and made it presentable. So, but the 2 duplexes needed rehabbing, and then I cut a deal back with the landlord because at first he did not want to rent that from me. So I went to him. So that gets to your question: how do you get somebody to do that? You first find them. You don't go to them and tell them you're doing an Airbnb. Now, I didn't fib. I went to them, and I'll give you kind of a little trade secret that I do teach when I'm teaching things. But you talk to them and you tell them that you're representing a company. You're representing your company. You're representing a company, and they've got me out looking for 2 or 3 units that I can put together to provide executive serviced apartments. Are you the correct person I need to talk to? Then you just shut up. If they're
Okay.
just the person answering the phone, they're going to get you to the right person. You know, because they recognize. But I never said I'm doing Airbnb. I didn't say I'm not. I just didn't say I was. Because that has a negative connotation, hence brought up the HOAs and stuff. But if you bring in a serviced executive apartment rental, which is really what you're providing. And so, but anyway, that is a way to get in there. And then when you look at their lease, there is an addendum that you need to get them to put on there. I teach that to my students because I've done all this with legal jargon and everything. And I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. I'm going to do my little full disclosure. I'm just a guru trying to scratch out a cornbread living. But this is an opportunity that we're loving the feedback we're getting from doing the hospitality part of it. We can see where this would grow. And I can see where, 20 units could easily cash flow somewhere around 40, 50 grand a month when you start doing this right. But let's just get back to the person that has a job that you spoke of that maybe wants to keep their property. Let's say they're underwater and they really can't sell the property. The property they owe is this, and they're transferred, but the property, they owe this, but the property's only worth this. But they can rent it and pay
basically, because this will also be audio, they owe more than they can get.
They're in an inequity position. So let's say that was the case. Okay. They're not even trying to be. They're an accidental investor. They're not even trying to be an investor. There was okay. Let's take that situation. Let's say they can rent it and start over and do all that and rent it and do all that, have the empty times and everything, or they can keep their property clean all the time. Somebody's always in there changing it. So they now can cash flow more money than if they rented it anyway. It covers their expenses, and they actually could pocket it. And if you do this right, and let's say, do you think some of your listeners would, let's say they've got their job, everything's going well, they're raising their families, they're taking care of their needs, but if they could generate an extra $1,000 a month, literally just an extra $1,000 a month, do you think that would make a difference in any of their lives?
That would be a sweet deal, wouldn't it?
Imagine if that could be tax-free. Can you imagine that?
Okay, tell me more.
Wow. Okay. Well, then you take, again, I'm not the accountant. These are legal things. You go talk to somebody that's a specialist in this, and you get a self-directed IRA. You put the property, your company is in your self-directed IRA. It owns the property. You don't get to stay there. By law, you can't participate in that stuff. But the money that grows tax-free.
I see.
You bought it with your tax dollars. Now, you may have bought it with $500 down. That's okay. It came out of your account that you'd already paid tax on. The money that grows tax-free. And let's say that there's a lot of money going on. You pay the bills and everything else, but every dollar that goes in, all goes in that account. After it's been 5 years, the way it works, after you've been 5 years holding that account, or you're 59 and a half, whichever comes first, then you can start drawing off of it, and you pay tax on the amount you draw. People do that all the time in real estate, especially because you can defer a lot of things and you can grow tax dollars into huge amounts of money. And then you can actually be a lender. You can be a private lender and everything. But let's say you didn't even want to do that. I'm just showing you there's so many driveways. Let's say the person is stuck with the house. They owe $300,000 on it, and the best they can sell it for is $225,000. And they just can't afford to take that hit.
Yeah.
What do they do? So they go, well, there's a way now. Instead of doing a $2,500 rental, they can now probably rent it and it'd be staying empty a few days. They can rent it and do it and decorate it and furnish it and make it nice. Have a good cleaning crew. Stay on top of it. Don't just assume people are doing their business. But it's not going to take a lot. You have a job. You have a life somewhere else. You move.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you could generate now the money to cover all those expenses, taxes, everything. And then you could probably pocket an extra $800 to $1,500 a month. And then you can let that grow and then make sure there was no maintenance needs. And then eventually defer it out and go, okay, well, hey, you know what? After a year or two, this is now growing and I've got about $25,000 there. That's my money. Meanwhile, you still own the house. Meanwhile, your property value went up and your amount you owe on it the short-term rental paid for itself.
Mhm.
And now you're kind of at that point, you may start getting an equity position. They never really were an investor. They were just looking at a way to transfer what might be a losing proposition today into something really great. And it's a great learning experience, and they built up some extra money for their retirement and help their family. I'm just giving you like one little seed a person could do.
I
But if you
love
imagine a compound effect, Darren Hardy's book, if you talk about doing that over and over again, and that's all that's happened to us in essentially 120 to 160 days, is to generate roughly, I don't know, I think we're just under $30,000.
That's a sweet deal. And I know you weren't doing this real estate or short-term rental like your main business. Tell us more about your story. I think that's pretty extraordinary. And you basically.
Well, I've done everything from younger carpentry days, construction. Those of you that are old Dallas Cowboy fans, I grew up in the Dallas area, and I got connected with Leroy Jordan, his group. He had a ranch there. He's out of Alabama, but he was an old Dallas Cowboy from way back. And I even got some referrals because I did some redwood decks and fences, and then I used to get referrals from their redwood place. And those are some good clients. So, that opened a lot of doors and things like that. But with that, you have too much success too early in life, and I was younger, and the best thing that ever happened was to fail, because I've failed forward my whole life and learning different things. The last 21 years, I guess, I've been in the Highline car sales in Houston.
Awesome.
And I was selling cars, minding my business, and I never wanted to go into management. And they kind of lassoed me into it after about two years. And I realized, okay, well, I'm just going to sell through other people now. I'm just going to teach them. And I went through different phases, like, well, I can do it better, so I'll just go close everybody's deal. The problem was I wasn't a good teacher, because they just knew if I get in front of them, I'm going to close the deal. Well, after a while, that just starts to wear on you. So I had to evolve and learn as a leader too, how to duplicate myself so that I was less busy, but yet everybody was moving at the pace I wanted them to move. And that was a growing experience for me, until I eventually was general sales manager. And my background's Porsches, BMWs, Ferraris, things like that, Land Rover, Jaguars, and serving people in Houston. But I was one of the early ones here to start doing online sales. So I've shipped cars to Australia, over the pond, to anywhere you name it, something
That
unique.
doesn't sound like much real estate
No,
experience.
I couldn't spell real estate. And other than we would buy our own home, and we did it traditionally. And that kind of gets to, I just knew the traditional ways of doing things. You go to, you go to a typical agent.
Realtor, yeah.
You get led around, you do this, and you make the deal. Then you put your money down, and you tie up your credit.
Well, a new immigrant cannot do that at all, because they don't have credit. They don't have 2 years of tax history and so on and so forth. So
Right.
they will have to go.
And there's so much other things out there that I didn't know about. I wasn't familiar, but I was fortunate that I had some good customers. I had agents and brokers that would come and buy nice cars. And I always noticed that the ones that were the real estate people, the agents and the brokers, always tapping their watch, always in a hurry. They made good money, but we had the hardest time getting these people approved, because let's say they made $200,000, but they spent $250,000. I mean, they were a constant cash flow, and they were always stressed out. And then I would do business with people that were real estate investors. They were dressed like I am, with a Star Wars shirt on, right in a t-shirt, messed up hair. They were laid back. They had more money than Ben Gump, and they were in no hurry. And I would say, sir, I'm sorry, it's going to take a little longer to get your paperwork. He said, oh, Kenny, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And I'm going, man, this is so weird. I'm looking on paper. This guy's worth this, and this one over here looks the part, but is so annoying and everything else, and and always wearing me down. This one over here just said, yeah, I'll take it. And I'm going, hey, I'd like to be that guy. So eventually, a couple of them, I wasn't a dirty dog in the car business, so I did them right. So they took me under their wing, and they said, hey, Wright, you should do this. I didn't trust myself that I could. And I actually, shame to my point, I could have done it years sooner. But I did get sick, and was given a long face by the doctor, and that I had a short time on, and I need to get it wasn't about changing my life. I was on my way out. And my wife did a lot of research. She's a 30-year teacher, educator, retired, and found some non-traditional methods. Mm-hmm. Although they're not insurance approved, they're the reason I'm here. And, that does cost resources. So that drained our well, a lot. And I'm realizing, okay, well, what's the point that I lived? Now I've got nothing left. And also I believe in you have to take care of your family. So I didn't have anything much left at all. And I want to leave her in a bind, because if this don't work, it comes back on me. Yeah. So I started thinking about what they told me. And I thought, well, you know what? I have the ability to articulate, and I do the right thing by people. And I can generally, there's no greater feeling than selling somebody, but not only just to sell them, but to actually help them. Whether it's to help them into the right car. They may come in looking for one thing, but hey, you know what? Based on what you're telling me, I think this would work better for you. And maybe I didn't sell the bigger commission or anything else, but I did what was right. Yeah. Well, now's the thing with the house. I've got people that they really save their money. They work hard, but they don't have the credit. They don't have this. They don't have that. Or something bad happened. Maybe it was a medical thing in a family. Yeah. They're not bad people. Or they just got here. I mean, land of opportunity and dreams. But they can't, but traditional people won't talk to them. Exactly. Well, now I can go talk to them and say, hey, look, you got a job?
Yeah. Right? A good job.
Well, this is what I believe. And this is what got me into the owner finance. I believe that if a person's paying $1,000 a month rent, they would more passionately pay $1,000 house payment to take care of it. Yeah. I believe that. That's my truest belief. Now, call me naive or whatever, but I'm not going to change who I am. But in doing it, I can go and I saved one person from losing their house. They're elated and grateful. I, in turn, need to find a new owner for the house. Now, I could go rent it, but I really don't want the babysitting and all the stuff. So I turned and I started doing owner financing and stuff. That's what was kind of doing. So I've got notes coming in. I get down payments and things. But I helped one person. I helped another family get in a house. Maybe somebody inherited a house and they live where you do on the West Coast, but they're inherited here in Texas and they have no qualms and want to come here and manage it. They just want to get rid of it. So the house needs work and this and this and this. That's where somebody like me, I come in. And there's a ton of me's out there that do that. The only difference is I look at things with another exit strategy. And now jumping into short-term rentals, I don't see that as babysitting. I actually see a very gratuitous opportunity. People are having a good time. I'm bettering the property. The neighbors, this is a very nice area where our first one started, and now our other one took over the other side in the Houston area. And the neighbors didn't even want any part of it. They are now our fans because we promised, my wife and I went to them and said, we will practice a good neighbor policy.
Yeah.
And you know what, if this doesn't work for us financially, obviously we can't do it. And we're going to stop. Yeah. And we're going to cut our losses and move on. The landlord wasn't crazy about it. But I went to him and I said, hey, look, you just showed me the property. And the truth is it looks like, it doesn't look clean. I mean, I hadn't brought the cleaning person in and everything. They just moved out. I said, I get it. But if you cleaned it, it's still not clean. Not the way we're going to clean it. Like, I'm going to take the vents off. I'm going to clean I'm going to clean it like you've never seen it every time. Because when you go to Disney and they turn those lights on, it's got to be like this. And when my customers walk in there, they need to feel it. And when I get a text like I did from a lady last night, and one of them says, oh my gosh, it's just wonderful. I mean, that my wife and I love that. That's a wow feeling that we made their day when they came in and they did this. They've already told 15 people and everything else. That's a drug high, I call it, because I made their day. But I serve them properly and they're excited and happy and everything. And then I've got people coming back and we've only just started this. You have to decide the wow. Now, am I spending a lot of time on it? Once I get it done in place, my processes are followed. It's it. It's just a little tweaking. I check my pricing. The things I teach with people and things like that. It's a lot to go into. Yeah. How to get the property. You just have to determine. When I'm talking to somebody for those few little consultation type things, I want to find out what it is you want to do, because just because what I want to do isn't what you want to do. I don't want to make you me. I need to find out where your problem is and what it is you want. And then if it's something that you tell me what it is, and I'll tell you, okay, well, this is what based on what you're telling me, and based on your capacity, this is what I think you can do. You have limited credit, you have this, you have that, but you really want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if I know the place you're living, because I know investors all over the country, and if I know the place you're living, I'll steer you how to look in certain areas where you don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. You know, what drives people to your area? What is around you that is going to drive somebody there that would make them want to come all the time? Like, is there ball games in your area? You know, and I'm lucky because we have the Astros, the Rockets, and the Texans. So, and we're like moments away, but we have huge medical facilities. We have a huge energy corridor. So there's a lot of things here that I'm around, but I'm not around every one of those places. So I would cater to a business person over here for energy corridor, and I would cater to the sports and concert person over here and the medical person over here. So I'm not in every one of those venues, even though I'm in the city. And our city is like bigger than the size of Connecticut. So, you know, it's just based on where you're at. If you're in a very, if you want to be, let's say a person wanted to do an Airbnb type thing, and they always wanted to own a beach house or a lake house, but they really can't afford the extra house. They love their job. They got their job. I know people that I helped them get this way. I said, well, look, here, you can set one up. They only rent it out like 8 to 10 times a year because it more than pays for it and compensates the maintenance and everything. And they got the whole place to themselves. And that's what they wanted. That was their dream.
That's a great idea. I love it.
Well, I listened to what they wanted. They were trying to figure out how to do it. And I said, well, it sounds like you're going against the grain of your personality. You really don't want to leave your job. You don't want to do this. You don't really want to do. I said, what do you want? And they said, well, we really want a lake house. We want to be able to bring our family and do this and bring our families. I said, great. Well, I know a way you can do that. And that's when I mentioned it. And they love it. They don't want another unit. They have no desire to do it. They know that if they rent it somewhere between 8 and 10 times, I think 7 times in a year pays for it. And then they profit the rest of it and cover any maintenance and upkeep and stuff. Because it's life, you know. You can't go to your beach house and lake house and not have to do something. But it's like pulling your boat out of storage. You know, you always got something you got to do. And this way, it's more than paid for. Even if they don't touch the money that year, the next year, they may have to put a roof on. Maybe they had a storm. They've got that money in the kitty. And they know that they have a place to go to and bring their family, do family reunions. They don't have to rent it. They can be the big grand poobah in their family. And meanwhile, the property is getting paid for.
Super cool.
So it's not an income property, but it is because they're building an asset of money. Eventually, that $400,000 property is going to get paid off.
Exactly.
And now they've got this huge thing, and they never were in the so-called real estate business.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways I can help people. I just need to find out what your goal is.
Yeah.
Because your goal and my goal are different, and your listeners' goals. I bet if you talk to 10 of your listeners right now, they're not one of them got the same goal. You know.
No, totally.
But we can help them get there.
Well, can you tell me how can people find you if they want to consult with you, or do you have ways?
Well, I was taught by a wise man, always try to answer your phone or answer your own phone. So I don't have a secretary or big assistant. I'm just a guru, scratching out a cornbread living. If
What's
you want to call,
number?
I will give you my number here. It is, sorry, I never call myself. 281
281
215
81215
3777. Think lucky 7, 3 sevens.
3777 281 215.
Just got another booking. While we were talking, I'm holding my phone. I just got another booking. 281-215-3777.
Okay.
Now, you can also find me on Facebook, Kenny Wright.
On Facebook.
Nothing special. And then my email is info,
Yes.
at Lone Star, as in Lone Star of the state, Lone Star Key Properties, IES.
Properties.
You know what?
I'm gonna list this on the website and on the notes here for the podcast.
Does that show?
Sweet. Yes.
Lone Star Key Properties. My wife came up with that logo.
Nice. Nice.
No, that's my better half.
Thank you so much for all the information, Kenny, and good luck with the new property.
Yeah, it's exciting, and and I like having people I can share it with, because I want to hear about you finding one, and I want you to get with me, and I want to know what I can do to help you, because
I would totally like to.
Your mind's probably thinking now,
Yeah.
okay, I know this place now where you might not have been able to buy it one way, but now you see another exit strategy and you can make it happen. And so that's another way to look at it.
I love it. I mean, my mind, it's do.
I did a deal, and I know I have to go and you go too, where I couldn't come up to terms with this guy. So I do price or terms, and I teach people that, I'm not the only one that does that, but I said, well, fine, if you want your price, then you got to give me the terms. You got to give me a little more longer to pay for it. So I did that. And then renting wise, it was really not even going to cash flow. I was like, and it's okay. Cause they say most renters, if you can come out $300 a month, you're fine. But when I did it this way, the deal actually comes together. The guy gets his high price. And now he's a fan. He wants to offer me another property. And he didn't even want to talk to anybody else, but a little less resistant. That sandpaper went away, because now he's like, hey, I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to pay an agent or anything. And so that's good. And then we've got a rapport there. Plus, he's already turned me on to another person who had some money to burn. So he wanted to be a private lender. And we'll save that for another story, how they can get resources and stuff. But it's all about doing people right. Next thing you know, they tell people. Everybody knows somebody, and you never know who you can connect. But I gave him the price he wanted. I just wanted longer to pay it out. But that payment, if I rented it, wasn't going to do me any favors. And it would take me forever to really realize it. But by turning it into a short-term rental, I had all that time to pay it off. And then at the same time, I'm cash flowing, and it actually is making $1,800 a month.
Wow.
And it's actually usually empty about 6 days a month. It hasn't been a whole month. I've never had anything rented a whole month yet. I'd be elated. The best I had was this last month. One of the units had 4 days open. That was the best we've had. So, I mean, you're about 65% rental done. And then, and like when I was talking about the lake house and beach house, your goal is to try to, in the season where people use it, you get to use it. But let's say you wanted a fun place like that. You would probably rent it by essentially renting it out half the season, and you enjoy it. But then you got the whole year. You can either rent it and lower the rate, or you can just have it there available for you to use. Everything's paid for. There's just all kind of ways to handle this. It just depends on what's best for you and your family and your schedule, because you have a job and you have blah, blah, blah. So I hope that helps somebody out there.
Yes, me too. And I'm sure it does. So thank you so much again, and hope to see you again to ask you more questions some days. Keep up the great work, and congratulations.
Christina, you're wonderful, and I want to keep watching you grow. So take care of yourself, and thank you so much for visiting with me today.
Thank you. Bye, Kenny.
Bye-bye.